There are many debates that circulate across the Rocket League community. People will debate which car is the best, whether cars locking noses is Rule 1 or Rule 2. For the record, it is definitely Rule 1. And of course, the most famous debate in Rocket League history, which region is better, North America or Europe? Now, this last topic of debate has mainly only occurred in the pro scene, with the question being which region had the higher skilled pro players. Outside of the highest level of the game, there is not much talk about which region is better in terms of everyday ranked. So, I wanted to find out if there was a noticeable difference between the two. And if there was the difference great enough to call one region better than the other? So, over the course of a week, I queued ranked on European servers. And in terms of noticeable differences, there were many. So allow me to take you through everything I learned across a week on European Rocket League servers. The first thing that was very apparent as soon as I arrived on European servers is that these players are ridiculously fast. They are fast in their decision making, they are fast in how they attack the ball. In pretty much every element of Rocket League, European players are insanely fast. This caused quite the adjustment period for myself. You see, on North American servers, you definitely don't want to be caught hesitating, but if you do, it is way more likely that you will get away with it on North American servers than on European. There were several instances when I had slight hesitation when going for the ball, and not only was I immediately clean beat to it, but more often than not, it resulted in an immediate goal for my opponents. You just had no room for hesitation in these lobbies, which in actuality is a very good thing. Too often, players get caught overthinking how they want to approach the ball, or they don't trust themselves to make a correct read. So they sit and wait for the ball to reach an easier position to play from. This patience works out great when there is not an opponent immediately ready to challenge you. What I realized on European servers is that there was almost always an opponent prepared to challenge when I hesitated on going for the ball. This teaches a very valuable lesson. Rocket League is a game that is meant to be played on instincts. The more time you spend thinking on the field, the slower you are going to be to the ball, and the more likely it is that you will be beat out by your opponents. At the end of the day, a bad decision that is made quickly will always be better than making the correct decision far too late. That is how you train yourself to make the right decision more quickly over time. The second thing I learned very quickly on European servers is that these players have deadly mechanics. Even at a rank like Champ 3, the mechanics these players are able to pull off are very impressive. What makes it even more dangerous is that most players seem to be fully in control of the ball when going for highly technical shots. In North America, there are definitely players with great mechanics, but most of the time they are executed quite slowly, or you can see that the player hasn't quite mastered what they are going for yet, and they end up being out of control of the ball. This is not the case in EU. Almost every time that a player took the ball into the air, they did so with confidence, and the defense really had to wonder what was going to come next. You combine the control of the ball with the speed that these players were playing at, and you were seeing some high-flying, high-paced goals being scored that were incredibly difficult to defend. Now, getting clipped on is never fun, but it does teach another very important lesson. That is that you need to be prepared for pretty much anything. You can be reading the play and have a pretty high confidence that you know where the play is going, but if you aren't positioned to cover the most likely play as well as all other possibilities, it is very likely that you will be beat out by your opponent doing something that you didn't expect. Realization number 3. There are very few disastrous mistakes on European servers, at least from the games that I experienced. Over here in NA, I have seen some very questionable things, all the way up through GC2. Now, sure, mistakes are going to happen, and sometimes players will accidentally miss the easiest touch of their lives. But the consistency that mistakes happen in NA is significantly higher than in EU. Across 2 weeks of games in NA, I have captured at least 6 incredibly questionable moments. Meanwhile, across an entire week in EU, I only saw 1 really bad mistake. This means that the consistency of the players on European servers is simply better than NA. And they seem to be more consistent at a faster pace with better mechanics. So far, everything is looking great on the EU side of things. This previous point about consistency does lead into realization number 4. This realization is really the only negative thing that I could say about the European servers. That is that they had a tendency to be more toxic in the chat more quickly than NA players. In fact, the very first game I played in EU had some interesting chat moments. While this is definitely annoying, I can understand why they may get frustrated rather quickly. Being that I am from NA, I would have a tendency to show my NA-ness every now and again, missing touches, being out of position, making poor decisions, all of the things you might expect from someone trying to play faster than they are used to. But from the perspective of the Europeans, all they saw was their teammate making mistakes that they don't expect their teammate to be making. They are expecting a pretty high level of consistency and speed from their teammate, based on all we've talked about to this point. So when they see their teammate making simple errors and then they look on the scoreboard and see that the ping indicates that their teammate is not from EU, I can understand why they would be more easily frustrated. Now, not all teammates were like this. Some were chill as can be. But it seemed that I was running into toxic players more often on the European servers. The one nice thing is that since it was EU, if they decided to type something in the chat rather than quick chatting, there was a pretty good chance they were speaking a language that I couldn't even understand. So in fairness, a lot of the toxicity was probably lost on me. The last discovery that I made is that it is really difficult to win consistently in EU. Of course, there is the ping disadvantage that you have to worry about, but I honestly didn't find this to be much of an issue at all. The real problem is that being from a different region, you are definitely being pulled out of your comfort zone by the playstyle of EU. You have to play faster than you are used to, and every mistake you make is going to be put under a microscope because you are the odd one out in these lobbies. When you consider everything you have to deal with, I would say that throughout the week of games, I survived. That's probably the best way I can phrase it. Across 7 days of games, there was only one where I came out with a winning record, and even that was just by the skin of my teeth. Overall, I lost roughly 72 MMR across my days in EU. Definitely doesn't seem like a rousing success in terms of ranked performance. However, because of this experience, I am going back to NA with some very valuable lessons. If there was one thing EU taught me above anything else, it is that I need to have confidence in my own abilities, and I need to trust myself to make the correct decision or correctly read the ball as fast as possible. I need to play more on instincts and less on thought. If I was going to answer which region was better, I would have to say Europe. They simply play faster and more consistently than we do here in NA. You add in the fact that they also have better mechanics, and it's really hard to argue that they simply play better than us. So now it is up to us to try to learn from them, in the same way that other regions have learned from us in the past. We need to strive to take what the Europeans are good at and apply it to our own game. Doing this will allow us to push to a higher level, but for the time being, Europe definitely has an upper hand on North America. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button right down below so you make sure you don't miss any future Rocket League content. Additionally, if you'd like to be more involved in this community, please consider joining my Discord, link down in the description. So thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. See you later, guys.